Hi there. Lately I've been using my Adorning Accents Edgelets dies to get this pretty decorative edge on my projects. And if you've seen many of my stamping projects, you know that I love layers. So in today's video, I want to show you what I do to get all these layers aligned when creating these decorative edges. It's really pretty simple. If you're wanting an equal border around the entire layer, you simply cut that layer that much smaller on all four sides. For example, on this Sympathy card, I wanted the designer paper to have this 1/8 inch border around the entire thing, so I cut it 1/4 inch smaller than the actual measurement of the card front. That gives me this 1/8 inch on either side. My card front began measuring 5.5 by 4.25, just a standard size card. And so I cut this designer paper to 5.25 by 4, just taking off 1/4 inch all the way around. Now I do have one more decorative edge on this card. It's the liner that is underneath here on the inside. And I did not want the border to go all the way around this like I did on the designer paper. I wanted just an 1/8 of an inch hanging out from underneath the card front. So I cut the width the same, the 5.5 inch width, the same as the card front, and then I just extended it 1/8 inch longer than the card front. So the card front measured 4.25 before die cutting, and this liner piece measures 4 3/8 before die cutting. Okay, so now we're ready to go ahead and die cut our edges. So we're going to start with the cutting platform on tab 2 to do these edgelets. And then, as I've shown in other videos, I did set up a cutting pad with the grid paper on the bottom side so that I'd have these lines to use as a guide. And I attached my edgelet to another cutting pad just to help position it better. Okay, so I've got my card base, and I'm going to just use a little bit of this removable dado adhesive to hold this in place. I'm just going to put a little bit on there, and then you want to line up the edge of the cardstock with one of these grid lines and make sure that it's even distance from the side so that you get it centered. And then I'm just going to stick that dado so that it stays put. Then I've got my edgelet die that I have on another cutting pad, and I want this to cut about 5/8 of an inch from the edge of the card front. That's about 2.5 of these squares. Basically what I do is I line up this bottom edge of the die with the third grid line from the edge of the cardstock. Okay, so I've got that into place. Hopefully you can see that. And then I can go ahead and run that through the Big Shot. So there is that die cut edge, and then I can remove this. And now I have my designer paper, and I'm going to line that with one of the grid lines again, but I want to make sure that I also get these side edges centered. And then I'm going to take my edgelets die, and I'm going to position that just like I did the other one. Okay, so when I have that into place, then I can go ahead and roll that through the Big Shot. Okay, so there's that layer. And then we'll do the same for the liner. Okay, so now you can see that I have all of my layers cut. Here's my card base with the card front. Here is the liner, the Very Vanilla liner, and that fits just right inside with that 1/8 of an inch edge on here. And my designer paper fits on the card front with that 1/8 inch frame all the way around the edges. Okay, so I'm ready to stamp this label image, and I am going to use my soft suede ink pad and the Apothecary Art label image, and I'm just stamping this on Very Vanilla cardstock. Then for the sentiment, I'm going to use the Loving Thoughts stamp set. This is beautiful wording. I'm using my old olive ink pad, And just to make sure that I get this wording lined up right inside of that ribbon section, I'm going to use my Stamp-O-Majig, and I've already put the image on there, stamp that on, and I'm just going to line that up, bring in my little tool here. Okay, and then to color these flowers, I'm just going to use some ink that I've got here in my ink pads, and I'm using So Saffron and the Old Olive with a blender pen. And on the flowers, I just kind of started by putting that So Saffron in the center, and then I just kind of draw it out towards the edges to get a more subtle look towards the edges. And that's how I colored this, all of these flowers in. Okay, so then when you're ready to switch, I'm using the Old Olive ink to do the leaves. And I'm just picking up a little color off of that ink pad to add the color for these leaves. Okay, so when you're finished coloring the image in, then you're ready to go ahead and die cut this little label with the framelits die. Okay, so we've got our big shot again, and the tab 2 is what we want. So we have a cutting pad, and then our image, the framelit die, which I'm going to position right around, so I've got a good even border around all those edges. And then we'll put another cutting pad on top, and we can die cut. And there's your label. Okay, now to finish this card, I'm using my So Saffron ink, and I'm going to sponge the edges of all of the layers, and it just gives it some dimension and a little more color. Okay, and on this liner, just all we have to do is just this bottom edge. And then I will do the same thing with the label. Okay, so now that all of these edges are sponged, I'm going to go ahead and take my designer paper, and I want to wrap this ribbon. I'm going to just wrap some ribbon right around the center, and I'm going to attach it on the back side with snail adhesive. So I'm putting snail adhesive sort of in the center on this back side, and then I can take and attach this on the back side and bring it around and attach it, and then I can just trim the end off. And then I can go ahead and start layering these on with my snail adhesive. So I'm just going to center that on the front so that I've got that border all the way around. And then I can go ahead and put my liner on the inside. So you see those just came out right where they needed to. Now I can go ahead and take my label, and I'm going to add a couple of dimensionals on the back side. And then I can position that right into the center. And then I took just a little piece of ribbon and just tied a knot, like so. I'll trim that off. And I will just attach that to the front with a glue dot. And now I'm ready to take my pearls and attach those to the flowers, and I'm using a couple of the medium-sized ones and a couple of the really tiny ones. So I just put like 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. So there's your finished card. Please let me know if you have any questions. All the products used to make this can be purchased online at my Stampin' Up! Website, or you can contact me and I'd be happy to place the order for you. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.